Like all those locals showing our inside and listen, for we are awakened.
You are listening to the Awakened Radio Network. Visit our website at www.awakenedradio.net, where you can find out all about the Awakened Radio host, take part in our forum, and chat with us in our live mobile chat room. Want to listen on the go? Go to TuneIn.com, download their free app, and search for Awakened Radio. We are always here for you on the Awakened Radio Network. Have you experienced the power of one? A brand new challenge for all of our hosts and listeners at the Awakened Radio Network is the power of one. One person taking one action. And through the power of agreement, that action creating mightily. Find out all about the power of one at awakenedradio.net. Discover how you can help to create with other people, one person at a time. Awakened Radio is brought to you in part by the Awakened Store at awakenedradio.net. You'll find autographed copies of Donna Devaine's books, guided meditations by Ragozzine and Donna Devane, Native American style dream catchers, medicine gemstone jewelry, stones, crystals, and a whole lot more. Support the Awakened Radio Network by visiting the Awakened Store today. awakenedradio.net. We understand and activate the power of one.
Welcome to Simply Conversations. I'm your host, Rob Ragozzine. The show airs every Sunday at 9 p.m. East, 8 Central. Each week we have a new conversation exploring the life of someone who's listening to the wisdom within their hearts. Join us as we open the door for these uplifting and courageous people. Their work has helped to transform their lives, and it ultimately helps to support, heal, and grow their communities. Listen to our discussion and be inspired. Feel free to take part in our chat room or on the phone. Ask questions and chat with our guests. This show is brought to you by simplyconversations.com. Magazine. It's March 20th, 2014. Tonight, my guest is Chris Grosso, who's a blogger, author, and musician. He makes no excuses for his love of music, as he's a self-taught musician. He's been writing, recording, and touring since the mid-90s. He also recently published Indie Spiritualist, which is a deeply honest look at his life and experiences as he came to realize that it was time to heal and find a new way to live. He also writes for Origin Magazine, Huffington Post, and Mantra Yoga and Health Magazine. With that, we welcome Chris. Thanks for coming on the show tonight, Chris.
Hey, Rob. How are you?
I'm great. And I'd like to talk a little bit about your book, as it just seems so powerful.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
And I had some questions around just the experience and how you were able to not only forgive yourself, but have compassion enough to allow others to see into your life.
Yeah, the self-forgiveness thing is still an ongoing process for sure. It's better today than it was yesterday, as it is better than the day before that. But I feel like it could be a lifelong process. Who knows? But so it's something I continue to work on each day. Regarding the opening myself up, It's just something I feel called to do, to be honest with you. Part of it, to be totally honest, is that I still have a hard time calling myself a writer because I did not go to school for writing. I never took classes for writing. I honestly didn't envision myself writing a book. So I think what I try to make up for in the area I lack in prose, I try to offer the reader my story as candidly as possible and in a way that's just authentically from the heart. So it's it can be scary. It's been scary for sure, because obviously if you read, there's some very vulnerable things in there, but it's all shared in the spirit of offering hope to those who are struggling with various things, and also hopefully it shines a light, letting them know that things get better.
I think it also, Chris, shines a light on forgiveness, not only for yourself, but for your friends and family, especially those that are mentioned.
Yeah, for sure. And that's something, it's, like you said, that's definitely part of the process. Much of the book talks about my history with addiction, and something that a lot of people overlook is that addiction is a family disease as well as a friend disease. It doesn't just impact the person with the issue, that's affected by the disease. To see what my family had to go through, to see what my friends had to go through that is probably the hardest thing that I deal with today is, going back to the self-forgiveness thing, trying to make peace with myself. My family has been very supportive, as have my friends throughout the whole time they've been there. But, for me to try and reconcile what I've put them through, it's a day-by-day process. And I'm grateful that I've had that, because a lot of people who've gone through what I've gone through don't have that support. So it's not lost on me that they've been there for me, and I owe so much to them for where I'm at today, for sure.
So gratitude definitely is very important for you in your life, Chris.
Oh, every day. I try, I do a kind of silly cliche practice, but I mean, I try. Some days are better than others, but I really try to be as grateful for as many things as I can each day. And something as simple as having a pair of shoes to put on my feet, having a toilet to go to the bathroom, having a toothbrush, having food. Like I said, some days I'm on it and I'm actually really expressing gratitude all day. Other days I'll set the intention in the morning, and next thing I know, I'll be going to bed and the days just kind of slip by. But yes, having kind of gone to the depths that I've gone to in my life, how can I not be grateful? And I'm not saying that life's grand and it's always beautiful and perfect, because that's definitely not the case. But it's so much easier now to be grateful for what a lot of people would probably consider smaller things, or that people take for granted.
Now, do you regularly write about gratitude, Chris?
I go through phases where I actually keep gratitude lists, and I will try to do 5 to 10 things each morning that I write, that I'm grateful for. Sometimes, like recently with the book coming out, my schedule is just so hectic that I'm able, gratefully, to still dedicate myself to my meditation practice, but things like keeping that gratitude list aren't really feasible with everything I have going on right now. When things slow back down, then I'll pick it back up. But in the interim, like I said, I'll try to carry that gratitude with me throughout the day as much as possible. But yes, I think it's very, very important. And it's great. There's a lot of gratitude Facebook communities out there, and people just post whatever they're grateful for in the day. And it's really inspiring to see people out there doing that. It's great stuff.
I guess, Chris, I meant if you had written in any blog posts around gratitude.
A blog post specific. I feel like gratitude finds its way into almost everything I write.
Okay.
But I don't know that I've actually sat down and written specifically on the topic of gratitude. I may have. I've just, I've written so much that nothing comes right to mind. But like I said, I definitely think that I convey the attitude or message of gratitude in what I'm writing most of the time.
just from little I've read, it just seems like that's a very big thing in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I mean, it's a huge thing for me every single day, and certainly throughout the book, I try to express that. Actually, you know what? I'm glad you mentioned it, because there is in the book. I have a copy right here, but it's towards the very end. I have the whole B side of the book is practices and various things for people to start implicating. And yeah, the very last thing in the practices is gratitude on page 207. So you know what? I did write an entire thing on gratitude. So there you go.
And what kinds of practices did you talk about?
Oh, throughout the book, I mean, I did more traditional things like prayer or mala or rosary beadwork, but also non-traditional things like going to a concert. I think that can be a very spiritual thing for people. Even something as simple as visiting a museum or a gallery. Journaling, of course. Yoga.
Well, of course, you say follow your own path, but you can use the mindfulness practice in everyday life, like you mentioned, going to a concert or whatever you do.
Absolutely, and that's the beautiful thing about mindfulness is that no specific spiritual path or religion, owns that. Mindfulness is what it is. It's strictly mindfulness. So even if some of the most beautiful people I know have no interest in spirituality or religion, and I would still call them some of the most spiritual people I know, because the level of compassion they have and love for others, and I think the awareness that the mindfulness is a part of that for them. So, mindfulness it's a very natural thing that's available to all people, regardless of what their spiritual or religious interest is or lack thereof.
Well, Chris, before we get overwhelming people, what does spiritualist or spiritual really even mean? I
mean, if you ask 100 different people, you're liable to get 100 different answers. So it's a very broad term. For me, I simply like to say it's waking up. Waking up to the fact that there's more going on than the material form that most of us are conditioned since birth to believe we are. I mean, that's of course part of it. But, there's more to us than our physical bodies, our names, the material things we own, the jobs we work. There's a lot more going on underneath that. And that's why throughout the book I write quite a bit about meditation. And there's so many different kinds of meditation practices. So, of course, finding one that feels good for you is what I recommend. But as we start to quiet the mind through whatever meditation practices that do work for us, we start to tune in to that deeper sense of self, that underlying I amness or isness, the knowingness that is there that is just as much a part of us. And many of the great wisdom traditions would say that it is, our true self, the capital S, the awareness that is aware of the doing. So, yeah, I don't mean to go overly deep, but in a nutshell, there's a basic idea of spirituality as I've experienced it. But I always tell people, just, Rob, become your own spiritual scientist. Find out what spirituality means for you. Just because that's what it means for me doesn't mean that's what it needs to be for someone else. Whatever resonates as spirituality for someone in their own life and their experience, then that is spirituality for them. No one can tell me my experience is invalid because I'm the only one experiencing it. And I can't tell anyone else their experience is invalid because they're the only one that's experiencing it.
Right. So to honor your experience and find a way that supports you.
Exactly. Right. And honor the fact that other people have different ways, that it works for them. It is a beautiful thing to find what works for you and to cultivate that practice and go deeper with it, but while keeping an open mind to others, and honoring and celebrating the fact that they're doing what they're doing. It's all different paths up the same mountain, and the top where we get to it, it's the same place, I believe, at least.
So, Chris, what can you say to someone that is not necessarily where you are, maybe worse off or maybe better off, but still has that mountain to climb of healing?
The best I guess advice I can give, like I've been saying, is find out what works for you. You know, Ram Dass talks about what's called the spiritual buffet line that a lot of people get in when they're newly interested in spirituality. And what he means by that is, you know, some people will try a little Buddhism or try a little Vedanta, Hinduism, or Christianity, or, you know, Judaism, whatever it might be. You know, people kind of jump around, they'll check out different books, audiobooks. I think that's an extremely healthy attitude to take in the beginning of one's spiritual search, because that way you're getting a little flavor of what these different traditions offer, and you're able to find what does resonate for you and what doesn't. Now, the other tricky thing, though, is that some people, they're not really interested in that more traditional sense of spirituality. So what I write about in the book quite a bit is that find it in things that you are passionate about, say skateboarding, for example, or nature and hiking. You know, we were talking about mindfulness. So if you're able to bring a bit of mindfulness into whatever it is you're already doing that you enjoy, that right there kind of puts a spiritual aspect into it, because you're there, you're in the present moment. You know, like Ram Dass says, be here now, or Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now. You're coming back to this moment. I mean, even something as simple as washing your hands and smelling the soap and being aware of the water in your hands as it's happening, that's a spiritual experience, because you're right there in the moment. So, and I would also definitely, again, really recommend some kind of a meditation practice to them, because I feel like that is the biggest part that's going to help anyone start to cultivate that deeper sense of connectedness. If they don't want to call spirituality, you know, maybe a connectedness or a sense of something more than meets the eye.
Chris, what happens if they just throw up their hands and say, none of this works for me?
Then none of it works for them at that time. You know, we each have our own process. And if someone's not ready, they're not ready. You know, these things can't be forced on anyone. I mean, I know that at times, like, I've thrown my hands up, and that's even after starting on the path for a bit and walking away from it. The thing that I found that happened with me was that seeds had been planted along the way, you know, and so I might not have been meditating for a while or really been spending too much time reading or really doing anything spiritual per se, but it was already kind of ingrained in me at that point. So even spending a little time with it, it was still there later on. But like I said, if everyone's path is different, and I do believe things unfold as they're supposed to. You know, they say the teacher will show up when the student's ready. I believe that too. So we just honor our paths and where we're at in life, and don't try to pretend like we're something we're not, or we're not somewhere where we're not. And I mean, that's really the best answer I could give you for that.
Yeah. Chris, can you tell me a moment when you knew that what you were doing was making a difference, not only for yourself, but for other people?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is this last time after I'd gotten out of rehab, I'm coming home and just seeing my parents and my family, first of all, you know, my brother, and seeing the way that they saw the change in me, and they saw that I was really working on taking care of myself. And I know that sounds a little selfish, but you know, in the place I was at after having such a horrible relapse to alcohol and pills, I needed to get right inside myself first before I could really be of service to others in any way. But from there, you know, I started to write, and, you know, for some websites, and putting some of my experience out there, and then getting messages, you know, whether it was through my own website or, you know, through social media, and people just thanking me for what they had read that I'd written, whether it was something that they directly had experienced themselves or could relate to, or even a lot of the times I get parents writing me of, you know, that have children that struggle with addiction, or not even addiction, people that are just kind of new to the path and spirituality and are finding their way on it, and, you know, feel like the dogmatic tenets of religion aren't working for them, or some people don't really resonate with the very positive, like, love and light aspects of a lot of it, you know. So just you know, having that connection with people, and it's only grown since the books come out, and it's a very humbling thing, to be honest with you, because all I really want to do is to be of service and help others in any way I can, and to actually see that my intention is being heard, you know, by whatever you want to call it, God, collective consciousness, Buddha nature, it's all good. But, that's the one intention I make every morning is basically to be able to lay myself aside to the best of my ability, and so a greater good and guidance can come through and be of service. On a good day, that happens. Other days, not so much, but I definitely try, and so it's humbling that people, I guess it's resonating and I connect with them.
Chris, how can other people be of service?
Oh, in any number of ways. It's funny you asked that. I was just speaking with my wife tonight, actually, who was saying she felt like she needed to be of service more. She's seen the really overwhelming, wonderful response my book's gotten, and we have a friend, Amy Black, who's been doing some wonderful work. She's a tattoo artist, and she helps cancer patients who have just scars and things of that nature. She does really beautiful work around that, and she just did a great TEDx talk. So my wife was saying how she feels like she needs to be doing more, and I just had to remind her that every night she spends practicing yoga, she loves doing yoga, or every page she reads in a book that's spiritual or connects her back to herself, or even something as simple as the other night, she usually stays up late and likes to create art and do things like that, but she was tired, so she went to bed early. And I was like, even the fact that you took care of yourself and going to bed early, that's being of service. You are serving yourself and being compassionate towards yourself, so that leaves you in a healthier place to be compassionate and be of service to others. In a more traditional sense, of course, someone can volunteer in any number of places, whether it's a nursing home or at an elementary school. They oftentimes love that people come in and do projects with kids, or I like to go in and speak at detoxes or rehabs or meetings, or there's any number of ways. Something as simple as doing something nice, like paying the toll for the person behind you. That's being of service, because that act in and of itself, 9 times out of 10, is probably going to put a smile on the person's face behind you. And then who knows the ripple effect that that's going to have throughout humanity, quite literally, because maybe then they'll do something nice for someone else later, and on it goes. So it's really limitless.
I like how you were talking about your wife there, because it brings to mind that something that we all need to know more about. Taking care of ourselves first is often the key to being able to take care of others.
Right. Yeah, and something that I struggled with was always putting others first. But what I personally had to come to learn is, yes, a part of that was certainly because I had a compassionate nature, but I enjoyed doing that because it was taking the focus off of me. And I'm being totally honest. Like, I didn't want to look at myself, and I didn't want to work on me, because nobody likes to look at that, the unpleasant stuff we have in there. And we all have it to some degree, some more than others. But, so when we actually do that work, though, and we turn inside in whatever way works for us, whether meditation, mantra, journaling, yoga, whatever it is, but when we're taking care of ourselves, then we're really, really able to show up and be there for others. So, yeah, I think it's important. I think it's something a lot of people tend to overlook.
So, Chris, how are you doing that for yourself now?
Well, each morning, like I said, the first thing I do pretty much is I sit and I make that intention of, I close my eyes and ask the higher power of my understanding, whatever anyone chooses to call that is A-okay, and I just ask literally for help getting out of my own way, so that I can allow a greater good to come through me and be of service, so I could be of service to others. And then I sit in meditation, usually for an hour every morning. Again, if my schedule is crazy, maybe it's only half an hour, but I offer that time knowing that as I'm meditating, I'm doing it not just for myself, but for others as well. And that helps, because sometimes, honestly, I don't feel like meditating in the morning, but it's a good push to remember that it's not always just about me, but it is about taking care of myself to take care of others. In other ways, too, it's just, I get a lot of messages from people, even before the book came out, but asking questions. And I always set aside time each day to answer as many as I can, and I always get back to them. It might be a few, but even something like that, I feel like I'm taking care of myself, because I'm helping others, with questions, whether it's they're struggling with addiction, or they're trying to write a book and they want to know something, or that whatever it is. So, that might sound a little unconventional, but I believe that's certainly part of it. I love to go running, so I usually run 5 or 6 times a week because that's very healthy. I think cardio is a great thing for us. So, I don't know. That's part of it, and I'm sure there's other things, but that's what comes to mind right now.
Chris, what do you think helped you to finally be able to look at the dark stuff?
I think it was really how low I got in this last relapse. The fact that, I'd relapsed a few times after coming to recovery, and there was always a sense of hope inside that, all right, I can bounce back from this. And this last time I was just so run down and so beat down that that sense of hope was completely gone. It was a real dark void in my life, a very, very bleak time. And I think it was reaching that place for me that allowed me, became the catalyst that allowed me to kind of just throw up the white flag. It didn't happen right away. As a matter of fact, it really took going through detox and getting into treatment and actually reading a book called Finding Freedom by a wonderful author named Jarvis J. Masters. And, reading about this guy who's on death row in San Quentin, and he started reading about Buddhism, and he ended up taking his bodhisattva vows there, and he practices nonviolence. He's been there for over 30 years now, living a bodhisattva life, and he's written 2 wonderful books. And so reading that while I was in treatment really helped. It kind of gave me a kick in the butt, to be honest, and really helped me recognize things could be way worse. I mean, they'd been quite bad for me, but that it was time to really begin to turn things around and take care of myself and help others. I was still alive, which is no small feat in and of itself. So there's got to be a reason for it. And it's time to show up for others as well as myself.
Well, Chris, we only have 3 minutes until our break. So can you share how people can get in contact with you?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so my website's called indiespiritualist.com. From there are all the links to my Facebook page, Twitter, YouTube. I have a contact form. People can reach out to me there. And that's it. Like I said, it might take a day, 2-3 days, depending on what I have on my schedule, but I always respond. I'm grateful to people who take the time to write, so I'm always happy to write back and be of service, like I said, any way I can.
And do you have any upcoming events that people can meet you at?
Yeah, I actually just got back from a lot of events this month, traveling all over for the book tour. So I was busy with that. Thankfully, I'm in a bit of a lull right now, so I can catch up on writing and some other things I have to do. But on May 9th, I will be at West Hartford Yoga doing a book talk and signing. So it's a little over a month away, but I'll be out there. For anyone in the Vermont area, I'll be speaking at Wanderlust Festival up there in June. I have other things that are coming, but they're not official yet. So until they are, I don't want to announce them. So I'll be in Sedona Wisdom Days, World Wisdom Days in January. That's a ways off. But yeah, I mean, new things are popping up all the time. I have an events page on my website that people can check out. Or if, they end up following me on social media, I always keep people posted on where I'll be and what I'll be doing.
Okay. So they can reach you from your main website and find all of your upcoming stuff and more info about your book.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, we have about a minute left, so when we come back, we'll open up the chat room for questions for Chris, and you can ask questions to him, and I'll provide the numbers that you can contact us here when we come back from break. So please stay tuned.
You won't catch us sleeping through the fight at night. We're all eyes open, showing our inside and light so bright. We are awakened. Come and join us.
You are listening to the Awakened Radio Network. Visit our website at www.awakenedradio.net where you can find out all about the Awakened Radio host, take part in our forum, and chat with us in our live mobile chat room. Want to listen on the go? Go to TuneIn.com, download their free app, and search for Awakened Radio. We are always here for you on the Awakened Radio Network. Have you experienced the power of one? A brand new challenge for all of our hosts and listeners at the Awakened Radio Network is the power of one. One person taking one action, and through the power of agreement, that action creating mightily. Find out all about the power of one at awakenedradio.net. Discover how you can help to create with other people, one person at a time. Awakened Radio is brought to you in part by the Awakened Store at awakenedradio.net. You'll find autographed copies of Donna Dumain's books, guided meditations by Ragozzine and Donna Dumain, Native American style dream catchers, medicine gemstone jewelry, stones, crystals, and a whole lot more. Support the Awakened Radio Network by visiting the Awakened Store today. awakenedradio.net. We understand and activate the power of one.
Welcome to Simply Conversations. I'm your host, Rob Ragozzine. The show airs every Sunday at 9 p.m. East, 8 Central. Each week we have a new conversation exploring the life of someone who's listening to the wisdom within their hearts. Join us as we open the door for these uplifting and courageous people. Their work has helped to transform their lives, and it ultimately helps to support, heal, and grow their communities. Listen to our discussion and be inspired. Feel free to take part in our chat room or on the phone. Ask questions and chat with our guests. This show is brought to you by simplyconversations.com.
And if you have a question for Chris, you can join us on the air by adding Awakened Radio to Skype or calling 334-649-7204 or visiting awakenedradio.net and click the live chat tab and join us in the chat room. And we had a question already, and that was if you attend 12-step meetings, Chris.
Yes, I do. Being part of the fellowship is certainly a part of my recovery process. I know it's not for everyone, but for me, it's certainly been a big part of it. But again, my best friend, he's 6 years clean off of heroin, and he did it through church. So, I know a lot of people that also recover in yoga, and they find their own way. But yeah, so like I said, I have the meditation practice, and that's part of it, but 12-step fellowships are certainly important for me in my recovery, and I do write about that in the book as well, that's been a big part of it for me, and I'm very grateful to them. Step writing and step work has been huge. It's been a wonderful practice for me to really go inside and do that internal work that we were talking before about. So, yep, I am a recovering addict who does the fellowship.
I guess we have another question. Well, it says community work is important. And that brings up another question for me, Chris, is that do you feel like you're part of a growing community?
Yeah, I'm on the board of directors over at a wonderful place called the Sanctuary at Shepardfields here in East Haddam. I've been with them for 2 years. I'm the spiritual director. And unfortunately, my schedule has been so busy lately that I have not been able to commit as much time as I had in the past. But yes, I think community, Sangha, whatever kind of community works for individuals is certainly important. But for me in my life, besides the 12-step fellowship, having fellow people on the path that I can talk with and they can talk with me is very important. And also there's virtual sanghas. You know, I have some friends that are really into that, and that's not saying that they do that in place of in-person sanghas or meetings or groups of people, but it's nice to know that that option's there too. There's also a wonderful website called In the Rooms, and that's for people who are interested in 12-step meetings, and they host video meetings for people in recovery, both AA and NA, and you know, for those that some nights maybe they can't make it out or they're sick and they want to do meetings. So, but yeah, community is huge, absolutely.
So, Chris, have you been able to see how your addiction was able to serve you?
Well, yeah, I mean, it served me in the sense of it brought me to the depths that it did, which ultimately became the catalyst, you know, of awakening for me. The beautiful thing is that it doesn't need to be like that for people. It is a story you hear quite often. A lot of the great spiritual teachers either struggled with addiction and didn't come over it, or, you know, struggled and have come out the other side of it. So it's not an individual story per se, but I think that's probably been the greatest aspect of it. That and the fact that I can speak with the people that struggle, because it is it's horrible, you know, to be lost in the grips of addiction. There have been so many times where when I was using, I would have a bottle of alcohol in my hand and I would literally be crying before I took the first sip because I didn't want to. But I was just so caught in it, and I knew that if I didn't, the withdrawals would come in or the hangover would start. And it's a really lonely, painful place that it's impossible to understand unless you've gone through it. Doesn't mean you can't have empathy for it, but until you've been in such a desolate place, it's just, you don't know. So I'm grateful in that respect that I can connect with others who have been there or are there, or even the family members of those that suffer from it, and again, try to share my experience, strength, and hope with them, and in the hopes that it helps in one way or another.
Chris, what do you say to the people that are there in that suffering and then they attempt to read your book? Do you think they might misunderstand it?
Like, misunderstand in what sense would you say?
What the purpose of the book is?
I would hope not.
Yeah. Because you're talking about all of your suffering and it seems so normal. Well,
I think that there's underlying the book, there's just as much a message of hope and that we do recover. You know, so the suffering is certainly a part of it. Like Ram Dass's suffering it's like sandpaper. You know, it does its job of shaping us in life. But no, throughout the book, it's not just a dark book by any means. I do share candidly about some of my experiences, not in an obligatory way, but in a way that I wrote a lot of that for the people who haven't gone through the depths of addiction, that, you know, that aren't addicts, so they could get a sense of what it's like for those of us who have struggled. But at least half the book, if not more, is a message of hope and ways to come out the other side of that, and the fact that no matter how far down you've gone, it is never, ever too late. You know, the book starts out with the word hope, you know, and I tell a story about a man in Italy and how he talked to me about hope one night, I'm sorry, and how important that's been to me throughout my life. So, no, for anyone who's read the book, or reads the book who struggles, I would suspect it would be nothing less than a beacon of hope. And the feedback I've gotten across the board since it's been out has been overwhelmingly positive, and of gratitude from those who do suffer from addiction, from family members of those who suffer, from new people on the spiritual path. So, like I said, it's really just an offering of service and to share hope.
Yes, I was just looking at it from the perspective of someone who hasn't been able to take that first step and heal. And then what can we do for them? We can only hope, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, right. The brutal truth is that there's not really very much we really can do for them. It's that they need to want to do it for themselves, and that's just shown time and again. And people will use addiction as as the example here, but people can have the best intentions of wanting to get better, and I believe in their hearts they do when they want to get better for their family and their kids. But 9 times out of 10, it doesn't work because they really need to want to get better for themselves first, because the disease is impacting them specifically. So they need to work on the issues and the causes, and that varies from person to person. So they need to do that work on themselves before they can, finally be there for others.
Mm-hmm. Can you remember a conversation that you had while you were suffering, or maybe afterwards, that inspired you to believe in yourself?
While I was actually suffering, no, probably not. And the reason I say that, Rob, is because for me, at least when I was in that place of suffering and darkness, it was fueled by, my addiction. So I was so neurochemically imbalanced and just out of my mind on various substances that I don't think so. I don't think I was in a place where I was able to really make any semblance of positivity or hope or just anything. It was just I was doing my best to get through each day, day by day, by the skin of my teeth. So I wish I could say yes, but no, honestly, I don't think so.
How about now?
Oh yeah, well now definitely, because it's a totally different way today. Being not caught in the grips of addiction, being in a much healthier mental and physical state. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, whether it's a conversation in words with myself or a conversation in spirit, just sitting in meditation and allowing that kind of calm and serenity that comes with that to me is just as valid, if not more valid, of a conversation, of hope and of strength and of learning, and really, because that's where experience happens, and words are important and talk and ideas are, of course, very important, but the experience that is produced by all of that, for me at least, is what really brings it all home. That's where I draw my strength from.
Now, Chris, what advice would you give to, I guess, young teens who are experiencing this just because they don't have the experience, they don't have the guidance that you had to finally find your way out?
Yeah, and that's a great question, Rob, because I was actually just talking to my brother about that yesterday. I'm speaking at the end of April at a boarding school up in New Hampshire. A woman had contacted me, and her son is there, and he, is mixed up with addiction, and she also lost a sister 12 years ago who overdosed, and so she asked me to go speak at his school, and I said, of course, I'd be happy to. And the thing is, though, what do you say to high school kids, and all I can do is really give them the honest truth of my experience, let them know, share with them the places that it took me in life, also let them know that there is hope for those, especially in their situation, because the kids at this school, per se, are ones who've suffered from not just addiction, but from self-worth issues, cutting, eating or anorexia, things of that nature. And for teenagers, their rational mind is not fully formed yet. So I really feel like the best thing I can do is offer them the honest truth of who I am. And again, through sharing that, hopefully it plants some seeds that will develop as time goes on. But that's not to say I don't think that they won't take anything away from what's said at the time. I'm sure some of them absolutely will. I just think back to when I was a teenager, and a lot of it was lost on me. I wasn't a bad kid per se by any means, but I was going to do what I was going to do no matter what anyone else told me. But I did hear some good things then, and I did watch them later in life kind of flower as I matured a bit. So all I could say to them, and it's cliche, but it's, you take care of yourself and try to find something that you can really get involved in, whether it's art or music or something that, that they feel passionate about, that is a healthy creative outlet, rather than one that's destructive.
So find something that brings you joy and spend time doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think music's great. You can learn an instrument and join a band and have the camaraderie of other people. Art is wonderful. You can, because you can do art projects with other people. For me, a big thing that I had struggled with is, and I still do a bit to this day, is, being introverted by nature. I tend to isolate and live a bit of a hermit kind of lifestyle. And I recognize for me that doesn't help, because with that, after a while, depression will start to sink in. So that's something I've had to be very mindful of myself. And so I would just suggest that to the younger people, to try to be aware of that as well. I know younger people, a lot of them love their alone time. I did too. But especially those who happen to be struggling with things, trying to find activities, even sports, whatever resonates for someone else that is a healthy, productive outlet. It's a beautiful thing. And you see teenagers now even going to meditation groups, some of them, or yoga, and that's pretty awesome. So there's plenty of things out there for them to do.
How might you recommend that they begin to notice those harmful personal patterns and behaviors?
I think if they're just to even take a minute or 5 minutes out of their day and sit and try to meditate, I think that it would be abundantly clear to them what kind of state they are in at that time. When you sit and you quiet the mind, whatever kind of meditation technique you find that works, I think it's natural that if there's those negative emotions you've kind of been suppressing. For a teenager, maybe it's through things like video games or movies or being online, whatever it might be. If you walk away from that for even a couple of minutes and you close your eyes and you pay attention to what's happening inside, it's gonna, you'll feel what's happening. You might feel tension in your chest, or tightening there, or your stomach turning a bit, or tension in your head, or the thoughts might come up that you've been otherwise kind of ignoring, whatever the thoughts may be, but maybe that you're not enough, you don't think you're enough, you're not pretty enough, you're not thin enough, or you're you're not beautiful enough, whatever it might be. But yeah, but it's tricky, try to get someone to sit, a teenager to sit for a few minutes that has no interest in it, and it's all but impossible. So other than that, I don't know. God, it's tough. I don't have a much better answer than that. Just, I guess time will tell for them, and they'll find their way.
That's a great answer, Chris.
Well, thanks, Rob.
And I guess the next step might be for them to spend time with others and help talk about what's going on for them, and then through sharing, see that everyone experiences some similar things.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And, there's wonderful groups that are coming into schools now, high schools that are peer-centered groups that are teaching, empowering qualities, and, they take kids from various cliques, and they do circles, and they share, and kids open up and get vulnerable. It's a very bonding experience. And then you have David Lynch, the wonderful director. He has a great foundation that promotes consciousness-based education, and they're teaching meditation techniques to kids in schools. And so, it's something that society is more aware of, and it's wonderful to see that these things are happening. So hopefully it will continue to grow.
And in the chat room, we have people talking about technology, and I guess limiting how much time teenagers spend isolated with tech.
Sure. I mean, we're a plugged-in society today, and And I'd be lying if I said I wasn't part of that as well. I have to make a very conscious effort to step away, which can be tough at times because, my work, a lot of it is online and writing and, having to do the social media thing. It's all part of being a writer and whatnot. But unplugging and going outside, and that's not just for teenagers, that's for anyone that's alive today, taking that time to, shut the computer down, walk away from the video games, turn the TV off, and just get outside and or do whatever, like I said, play a sport or go hang out with a friend and go swimming. I know this sounds kind of corny, but really, I think back to when I was a kid before the internet, and I know I'm dating myself now, but it's I did have a Nintendo, so I can't say that I didn't have the video games, but I spent a ton of time skateboarding and playing hockey, or both ice hockey and street hockey, and soccer, and doing things that were outdoors, and getting dirty and having fun and being a kid. And so I still try to do that today. Go hiking and getting dirty. Oh, I'm out there hiking and trying to rekindle that child, that kind of carefree child nature a bit. And I hope I'm never at a point in my life, no matter how old I am, where that's not important to me.
Chris, do you have a story to share around that? Maybe from your book?
Around getting out?
Getting outside, being comfortable with yourself, back to nature.
I off the top of my head, in the book, I don't know, but let me think. In general, like I said, a big thing for me is running, which I try to do daily. I didn't go today, but I went yesterday for a 6.5 mile run, and that was great. I had hurt my ankle actually a few weeks ago, so I hadn't been able to go out, and it pained me because I love to get out there each day and just kind of connect, and be out there in nature, running and getting that the endorphins going, and so having not been able to do that very much the past few weeks, getting out there and really going for a long run yesterday, it was such a wonderful, wonderful experience for me. The gratitude I felt while I was out there, one, that I could be out there and running, that my ankle was healed enough that I could go for a longer run like that. But just being out there, and literally I'm in a rural area in Connecticut. I'm out in East Haddam, so there's plenty of just beautiful scenery as I'm out here running. So being out there and just taking it all in. There was a time, actually, I wrote about, I'm working on my second book, and this happened back in October. It was a beautiful fall day where I was out running, and I did have my iPod on, but I had this experience of just complete, utter oneness that came over me, and I was running down one of our more main roads, and it was just a complete, maybe it was a Kundalini experience, but tears started flowing from my eyes, tears of joy, and this huge grin was on my face, and I can only imagine how ridiculous I must have looked to cars that were driving by. But so I turned off this main road onto a side road that was part of the path I was running, and as I was running, this sense of oneness just got deeper and deeper to the point where I was aware that I was running, but I literally didn't feel my body as it was running anymore. It was like I was just anchored in this witnessing awareness of, and it was just to really explain the experience beyond that is very difficult, and I struggled writing about it, and I hope I did justice in what I wrote, but it was just a really amazing experience being out there completely, unplugged, minus the iPod, but even then, like I said, I didn't even hear the music anymore. It was just, I'm sure it might sound a bit strange for some readers or listeners that aren't familiar with these kinds of things, but it was a really, really beautiful thing. But even on a smaller scale, just getting out and hiking, whatever, seeing nature, what a beautiful thing that can be too.
So just getting out of our heads.
Oh, absolutely. For sure. Yeah.
So we're almost done tonight, unfortunately. So can you share your contact information again?
Yeah, happy to. That's people can find me at the indiespiritualist.com, and from there, they can find all of my social media links, there's information about my book, also titled Indie Spiritualist there. They can click to find it on Amazon from my website, or Barnes and Nobles. It's basically available anywhere books are sold, and that's a pretty cool thing. But yeah, so they can find me there, and I love meeting new people and connecting with folks, and just sharing this experience of life with them.
So how's it feel to publish your first book?
I'm still trying to wrap my head around that one, to be honest. As I said to you earlier, it's hard for me to call myself a writer, because I'm fans of people I would call writers, like Chuck Palahniuk or Bukowski, Hunter Thompson. I mean, these are people I love, and Burroughs and Lovecraft. Those are writers to me. I'm a bit of an experience sharer, I would say. So, to be able to walk into a bookstore like Barnes and Nobles, it has these books from real writers, and also me. It's pretty crazy. But more than that, it's an overwhelming sense of gratitude that not only am I still alive today, but I'm able to write this book. It's, I wrote with the intention of being of service and others, and receiving some beautiful feedback that it is in fact doing that. That's what it's all about for me. No matter if I hit the New York Times bestseller list or not, the fact that touching lives and helping people and helping myself, it's an experience of gratitude for sure.
Hey, Chris.
Yeah, thank you.
We've been talking with Chris Grosso, and his information will be in the and on Simply Conversations. So thanks again for visiting with us tonight, Chris.
Thank you, Rob. It was a real pleasure. I appreciate your time and everything you're doing as well.
Thank you.
Cool.
That was, again, Chris Grosso, and you'll be able to find his information in the forum and on my site. Now, we only have 3 minutes left, so let me share some things that's going on with the station. Of course, we have Thrive Magazine with the deadline of the 20th of each month, and you can share your articles, art, or poetry with us, and we'll share your bio and a link back to you. And of course, it's National Poetry Month here in the United States, so it's a great opportunity to hone your craft and share some of that with us and become a part of the Awaken Radio community. You also can join us as a sponsor and provide a way to back this show or other shows here at Awaken Radio and have your message be heard 3 times during each show, and that we play the shows 4 times a month, so you'll be heard a minimum of 12 times each month. Finally, if you're so inclined and you've enjoyed our shows, you can come to awakenradio.net and click on the donate buttons. It's a great opportunity to say thank you, Awaken Radio, and your donation can be $1, whatever you can spare. We're not asking for your grocery money. So thanks for your help, and thanks for tuning in this week to Simply Conversations. Stay tuned again next week for another episode of Simply Conversations. Have a great evening, and also tune in to my show on Thursday night, Your Unfolding Senses, where I talk about opening to your intuition and listening to the way that it speaks to you and opening those gifts. And also, if you're so inclined, you can visit Amazon and look up my book, Your Life Counts. It's all about following your life path and numerology. And again, thanks for listening tonight. We talked with Chris Grosso, author and blogger. And stay tuned for next week with a new guest. Thank you for listening.